Of the year. All right, for the next presentation, before I call her up, a couple of words. Anya Coates, Sergeant Coates from the 6th she's now in Queens South Task Force. She's our next salary. Before I call her up, we won't put a date on it because she definitely looks like she's getting younger and I'm getting older. But we're in the academy together, and I'm honored to have her as one of our honorees tonight. And the very kind executive board member from the SBA, Sergeant Capitoso, is going to do the presentation. Sarge was one of the instructors at the academy, and we were there. We won't put a date on it, but it's a nice touch to have everybody here together tonight. And Mania's mom is here tonight. Yesterday was her birthday, Priscilla. Yeah. I'll let you go too.
Just a personal note, the first time I was here was 1994 when this organization honored my wife. Very grateful. As the story goes, on April 26, 2010, Sergeant Anya Coates was assigned to the 6th Precinct. At approximately 6:20 p.m. while performing duties of patrol supervisor, Sergeant Coates and her driver responded to a burglary in progress. When the officers arrived at the scene, they were informed by a neighbor that an unknown suspect had broken into a house through the back door. To prevent the suspect from escaping, Sergeant Coates instructed a partner to secure the back door while she went around to the front and called for additional units. While she was repositioning, the suspect emerged suddenly from a side entrance carrying a bag. The sergeant immediately identified herself and ordered the man to stop, at which time he began rummaging through his bag. Sergeant Coates used that opportunity to take cover behind a parked car and draw a firearm. The suspect, standing just 5 feet away, drew a 9mm handgun from the bag. When Sergeant Coates ordered the man to drop the gun, he raised the weapon and pointed it at her. Faced with imminent threat, Sergeant Coates fired once, causing the gunman to turn and flee. Using other parked cars for cover, Sergeant Coates shadowed the perpetrator as he moved down the street. When they reached the corner, Sergeant Coates no longer had cover and bravely confronted the gunman just 3 feet away from her. The gunman turned and fired at her but missed. Sergeant Coates returned fire and took cover. The gunman limped off and stumbled to his knees a short distance away, where he decided to save us taxpayers a lot of money. He took his own life. I'm honored to present Sergeant Anya Coates with this award. So why not, Anya?
Mani still is quiet and is calm as always, and the guys on my board were joking around and said, maybe we should actually let you take her on a date now after all this. But, alright, that's what they do in that thing. Alright, our next presentation, I have to say it, I'm the president. I can do that once in a while. Not allowed to do much of anything else. But for our next presentation, sorry Mani, your mom is here. For our next presentation, I'd like to call up the Commissioner of New York State Parole, James Ferguson.
Jimmy.
Good evening. Thank you, Dan, Rev, for having me. When Dan calls you and asks you to come and talk, and it's for this organization, it's kind of hard to say no, so I raced down from doing some boards upstate. Dan, you should know there's a lot of guys in Sing Sing prison who send their love. I'm not really sure what they mean by that, but
Thanks, guys.
One of the things after 20 years working in the system, I'm always amazed at the character and the strength that I see in one of the duties that I have to perform, one of the sad duties I have to perform, and that's meeting with the victims of families in crime. Of course, many of those families are the families of slain police officers. And while losing someone is tragic, losing someone to a violent crime by someone who's spent their life engaged in selfless, violent pursuits is more tragic. But being a victim, when you've dedicated your life to protecting the safety of others and boldly walk out your door every day never knowing if you're going to have a shootout, get shot, or have to shoot someone, is even a more compounded tragedy. The thing that amazed me, even to this day, 7 years after meeting with dozens, and in fact, just all too many families of slain police officers, is their character and their strength. They come into the board to make their victim impact statement, not just to tell us that they want someone to stay in prison or complain how unfair the system is. After the death penalty got overturned, our legislature did nothing, and by default, some of the worst criminals in the system get 25 to life. And not talk about how unfair they feel life is, but to share their struggles, their daily struggle, decades later, how difficult it is just to even get through a day, let alone holidays, birthdays, special occasions. It's really a very sad time to have to deal with this. And it's one of the most difficult things I do, but I always keep in mind, if it's difficult for me for an hour or two, how is it for these families, minute after minute, hour after hour, day after day? As you may know, I grew up in a police family. Some of you know my father, Barney. 75 rebounds of cancers later, and he's still causing trouble. I won't even talk about the guy who missed tonight. I expected to see them before parole board on occasion or two before I leave my position. One of the things I think that disappointed me the most when I started this job 7 years ago is when I started to pick up some of these case folders and look through them and see that these families who have sacrificed more than any family should have to sacrifice. And as you all know, a man or woman, a member of service, just doesn't join the department. The whole family joins the department. What happens to that member of service obviously has a significant impact on the family for decades to come. So I was kind of disappointed when I would open these folders and I would see very little information in these folders, and I would see almost no opposition from departments, district attorneys, judges, even defense attorneys. There's little information. Some of you would be shocked the amount of information that is in these folders or lacking in these folders. So I made it a personal mission 7 years ago to educate district attorneys, judges, defense attorneys, police departments on how important it was for them to cooperate with parole, give us some information, and send us letters. Some have responded and didn't need to be told twice. One of those departments was the NYPD. The NYPD has the only program in the state, such as the one I guess the boys from Intel will describe a little bit later on, so I don't want to steal their thunder. But in essence, they went back 50 years of research for every single cop killer and came up with a computerized program so that a well-detailed letter can be signed by the PC and sent to the parole board. So as soon as Commissioner Kelly heard of the need of this information, he immediately went into action and got the best and the brightest, and I guess if you look at the table, it might not be the prettiest, but the best and the brightest, definitely. And they all got together and got this information, and they now do what the PD and all of you should expect of the police department and your brother officers, that they send in information and letters to us to support the families of slain officers and the officers who made that ultimate sacrifice. For a plug, I would just say, if you don't belong to this organization and you're an officer, you're a member of any police department, this is an organization you should seriously consider joining. There's no better organization for any law enforcement officer to belong to than an organization that's run, first of all, by Danny Kaplan, and second of all, that is supporting the families of slain officers. So I think the Intel unit is well deserving of the award they're getting today. They've done a fantastic job, and their mission is aligned directly with the mission of this organization to protect the families of slain officers. Thank you.
Table 9. Come on, guys.
Okay, I'm going to make this short, but I want to explain what the system actually is. In 2007, it came to our attention that not one unit within the NYPD had the sole responsibility of tracking all the cop killers that were incarcerated in prison. When we found this out, we decided to take the responsibility on to ourselves, and these group of guys that stand behind me are the ones that started a new system that we call the Cop Killer Initiative. And they created the first NYPD database to track every single inmate that was involved in a homicide of a New York City police officer. How we started the program is we had a cutoff date. We started in 1950 to present, and we researched every single incident when a New York City police officer was killed in the line of duty. Very quickly, when we started the program, we realized that all this information wasn't housed in one NYPD unit. It was spread out across the entire job. So it was a big task trying to get all the information on all these incidents. We reached out to over a dozen different units in the NYPD. We reached out to retired members of the Detective Bureau, Homicide Squad, Major Case, and I'd like to thank Detective Tom Nerney. He was one of our persons that we interviewed in detail with his corporate knowledge of these incidents. We confirmed with New York State Docs, the Federal Bureau of Prisons, the FBI, and the New York State Parole Board. We also conducted online research. There's a lot of good websites out there that gave us a lot of pointers. For example, NYPD Angels, Officer Down Memorial Page, very good sites. We actually sent our detectives to the New York Public Library for about 2 weeks straight to look at every single incident, the old archives newspaper. Because our concern was not every single cop killer was charged and convicted of the homicide. There was lesser charges, so that's what made it a lot more complicated. So these news articles gave us other indicators on associates, accomplices that we may have not found in the beginning. So from 1950 to present, there was over 304 police officers killed in the line of duty in New York City. 172 of these incidents were violent deaths, shootings, stabbings, etc. An interesting note, of these 304 incidents, 68 of these officers were killed while off duty, taking police action, which we all know, as a cop, we work 24/7. Currently, right now, we're monitoring 89 inmates in New York State Docks and 3 inmates in federal custody. Since the start of our program in 2007, 49 cop killers went before the parole board, and only 3 were released after several different boards. Now, why do we do this? Obviously, we want to keep cop killers behind bars. Many times, as Commissioner Ferguson stated, they get a folder, and it's very light. There's not much information. There may be some police reports, the prison records, but not much granular information regarding the incident itself. So when we created the database, we have detailed records of the incident, what happened, who was there. So this way we could write letters on behalf of the police commissioner, and he signs himself, so it can be sent to the parole board. We also notify the unions involved. We want to try to get as many letters written to the parole board and victim impact statements as possible. Through the years, we tracked down numerous family members, extended family members that we didn't really know about to begin with, but we were able to track them down when they relocated to other states, and we were able to get them to write these impact letters, which absolutely helps during the decision-making process. We make every attempt to make sure these cop killers remain behind bars. I just want to thank Daniel Kaplan, the New York State Shields, and the people standing right here behind me, because if it wasn't for these guys, we wouldn't have such a successful program that we have today. I also want to thank Commissioner Ferguson. He is absolutely a true friend to all law enforcement. He helped us immensely regarding this program, and like I said, he's a friend of everyone in this room. It's so gratifying to see another cop killer go in front of the board and get denied, and that's our whole mission. I thank you all. Thank you again.
All right, last time I was at an event, I hit the thing and it fell and it scared everybody, so now I'm paranoid. I just want to carry. I've been remiss, and Jamie reminded me I wanted to say a couple words about his dad, Barney. Barney is, I'll start right off. Barney is Barney Ferguson. Barney is the only NYPD detective ever to be the Grand Marshal of the Emerald Society, and that's just one of the things we know about Barney. But I wanted to mention the people on my board. That's where I was also remiss. Barney is one of the people, again, like Jerry, some other guys that either brought me into this organization almost 20 years ago, 22. Going back to when they started, I'll let Jack talk about it more, but right in the back is Captain Ron Brereton, who grabbed everybody as they came in and wouldn't let you get through. Ron is a captain in New York State Corrections. Larry Haskell is out there, and John Quinn, Lieutenant John Quinn from the 2-8, also out there. Bobby Stork, who was just up here with us, and also my uncle there, Frank Maresca, Marshal Frank Maresca. He took me like his nephew, so without him, another reason I wouldn't be here making it, makes it look easy for me, and it is easy for me because of these guys. So, and Anna Vendetti, please, Anna, mother of Anthony Vendetti. And is like my aunt, and has tolerated all my questions and helping me again through the years. But for our next presentation, I'd like to actually call up the honoree, because I'd like him to talk about the organization that he represents. That would be retired ESU Detective Rich Miller.